Yes, going to things. Yes, going.
Well, it's 6 p.m., so I'll call the meeting to order. Thank you for coming. Start with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that we gather on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically Nooksack and Lummi tribes who lived in the Salish Sea Basin throughout the San Juan Islands and the North Cascades watershed from time immemorial. On behalf of everyone here, we want to express our deepest respect and gratitude for our indigenous neighbors, the Nooksack and Lummi tribes, for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. And next up is resolutions.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up is approval agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
One, I just want to make sure we got it on there. It was the field trip for the mountain school.
Yep.
Yep.
Information.
Okay, so we got that in there. That was a late
Okay.
addition.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Motion to approve agenda as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good to the order.
So real quick, yesterday, track meet was here. And what was great was not just seeing kids participate, running the relays, the pole vault and all that, but it's the number of staff we have in our school that's supporting the track meet. Even our very own Nick was back there checking off the discus throwers as they were back there officiating. But it's just, it shows what Mount Baker's all about, the team effort about, and when people need help, they go out, they volunteer and they go do it and they make it happen for the kids. The second thing I want to talk a little bit about, I caught up with Mr. Lewis. He was just getting off the bus, geology field trip, took the kids out. Told me a little bit about it. I can't remember where they went, but they were looking at soil and rocks and layers of dirt and all that kind of stuff, which is, I think, pretty cool. So anyway, good the order.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've had the opportunity to go on some of the geology field trips, and it's always a great experience. Next up, consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Information from the audience. Tammy, do we have anyone signed up? Okay. So we have Leslie. You're up.
Pardon?
Yeah, please come up.
Oh, okay, great.
Thank you for coming.
Can I sit here or here? I haven't been here.
No, up.
Oh, right here.
Up in the
Okay,
middle,
okay.
So we have this as a webinar also, so.
Yep, yeah, that's
So
fine.
then anyone online can hear you better.
Okay. I
So
will
thank you.
speak loud. I'm used to being in a gym, so. I am Leslie Chawla and I am the physical education teacher at Harmony Elementary. It's nice to see you all tonight. I've never been to a board meeting, so it's exciting and I'm also nervous. So I wrote some of my notes down. Don't look at my scribbles. I am here tonight to advocate for our Mount Baker students. There is a Washington state law that states grades 1 through 8, an average of at least 100 instructional minutes per week per year in physical education shall be required of all pupils in common schools and grade schools unless waived by another law. And that law states that they can be excused on account of physical disability, religious belief, or participation in directed athletics. The law also states that recess as normally provided cannot be used to meet the requirement of an average of 100 minutes per week of instructional time in physical education. Currently, At Harmony Elementary, we have an average of 72 minutes per week. We are missing 28 minutes out of the 100 per week. At Kendall, they have the same minutes. So both schools have 36 minutes per week, a total of 72 minutes per week, missing 28 minutes per week. Acme also has 72 minutes per week. They were able to implement a tier 2 PE this year, and each class receives one 30-minute additional physical education. So in essence, Acme is one school that achieves the 102 minutes of instructional PE per week. Although many students are pulled during the tier 2 PE, so the class is approximately 75 to 85% full this year. So I just want to state that PE is not a special. It is a required subject by Washington state law. And I would like to know why we are not currently, to my knowledge, following this law, and in some years past, and also how we are moving forward and what the plan will be for our Mount Baker students. I teach elementary, and so I'm specifically looking at 1 through 6 because I teach K through 8 or K through 6. So I just would like to know moving forward what the plan will be, or who is held accountable for our students to receive the required 100 physical education minutes per week.
Well, thank you very much. And as is our common practice to follow up, the board will turn the follow-up over to the superintendent to answer your questions. And so you can work out.
Not gonna
schedule.
answer right now.
No.
You have an answer right now?
So I
you're
didn't
saying
preface this, and since
Okay,
it's your
got
first
it.
board meeting, I recognize you didn't realize it. So we take public comment, but we
Okay.
don't engage in dialogue at the board meeting.
Okay,
We do the follow-up through the appropriate channels. So,
Great.
but we really appreciate your comment.
thank you. That's what I assumed. I just thought.
Yeah,
because
no,
I'm
I
nervous,
just
I'm
want to make
listening,
sure
like,
you're
wait.
clear on the
Yeah.
process. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? If there's anyone else who wishes to address the board, it's the time. And if not, we'll go on to information from the board, and I'll start with you, Danielle.
I don't have any comment this week.
Ed?
I guess I just wanted to comment that, I'm aware that we're kind of getting into crunch time here. We made an announcement last week about staffing cuts and, where that's a stressful time, and just want to make sure people feel like they can reach out, hopefully to Phil, but if not, to a board member. Not that we have all the answers, but we just want to be present for people and know that they can talk to somebody, right? Also, I'm just aware that we kind of know what's going on in the plan, but a lot of people that don't come to board meetings might not know things, so it's probably good to be repetitive about some of the high level things. I had a question from someone about our plan for superintendent position, and just want to make sure people know we are planning to go through a formal process to have a superintendent in place for the 25-26 school year. That will involve community input, broad search, all those types of things. So doesn't hurt to repeat those things. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ed. Brenna?
I don't really have anything. I'm just getting back into it. So, thanks for having me.
We're very pleased. Jason?
Nothing this week on this time.
So I would like to highlight, so we're as we all know, we're faced with significant budget cuts to bring our budget into a sustainable pattern. And it will take some time, and it's gonna take, at least for the time being, some continuing difficult choices, difficult decisions. There's no way around that. But I want to acknowledge and thank our athletic director, Ron Lepper. Ron, as part of our planning for next year, was by the administration given a target figure to reduce expenses in the co-curricular program, but to the greatest extent possible, retain the experiences for the students, which is a very difficult balancing act. And and he was able to meet the dollar figure, the target they were shooting at, and accomplish that. And that was in keeping, the board made a strong statement last fall that we will retain our co-curricular program through this. We knew we needed to reduce the cost there, but we determined that to not eliminate the program wholesale. And so I just wanted to acknowledge and thank Athletic Director Lepper for his teamwork in accomplishing that. And I'm getting the sense as we move into this, as difficult as these decisions are to take and to implement, that if we do it with a sense of teamwork and also with a sense of, okay, where do we want to get in the future? Where do we want to be in 2 or 3 years? What kind of a district do we see ourselves, and where do we and how do we accomplish that? And I think that working together is critical to accomplish that. So I just wanted to point that out. So and I expect Phil may have more details in his superintendent's report of that and other things, but wanted to acknowledge that. So presentation, we have presentation, and this is one that's very dear to our hearts. It's the roots of empathy. So we'll Bridget, if you want to introduce it, and then the rest of the team members. So you brought a baby. Sort of.
Not a real one.
People get really mad at me if I don't treat the baby really well. That the baby is something. So when Laura and Jessica, Jessica is our acting counselor, Laura is our Kendall Elementary Council, and Sarah is the primary contact with Roots of Empathy. Just a year ago, we started talking about it, and we quickly made the move because of the value of the program and the impact it can have on students and adults in the schools. And so today, we just wanted to take the time to celebrate and recognize and have you learn about this fantastic program that's impacting every third grader in our school district. Thank you. And as Russ said, the teamwork, right? The collaboration. This program is all about collaboration, and we had each school in your school district step in, and how do we make this happen? And the counselors stepping into the instructors, and even though it's like, okay, wait, what are we doing? All right, let's do it. Is really heartening to see that all third graders across your whole school district got to make that happen, and no other school district did that in one county. So congratulations, nice job. So Roots of Empathy, I'll just go through kind of basic presentation details, and then we're gonna have some special stories, and then any questions you all have about what's program, what's it like this year, or what are we looking at for future years. So the PowerPoint is up there. or you can look at me, either way is fine. I'm like, "Ooh, go that way." So it's evidence-based classroom program that reduces levels of aggression and bullying. So bottom line is that among school children, and increases social emotional competency and increases empathy. So if you look back at me, there is a research summary that is 20 years worth around the world. It's in 12 countries, 7 different languages, that shows a decrease in bullying aggression, but there's also metrics about emotional well-being. So emotional resiliency, emotional regulation are really big components of that. And the founder of Roots of Empathy, Mary Gordon, she wrote a book about the program, and what it's based in is neuroscience, social behaviors, social emotional learning. So this is something I can also pass around, look at. I got cards. Oh, it was in the Cascadia Weekly if anybody wants more cute pictures. All about the cuteness. But the whole thing is interrupting intergenerational cycles and replacing that with something else. So how it does that is through our trained Roots of Empathy instructors in your school district. It's the school counselors, plus we have one person who's a community volunteer, and then a neighborhood parent and baby. It's accredited curriculum. So the partner, the classroom teacher, a family with a baby, 2 to 4 months old, starting in October, and then once a month through the school year that come in. And the instructor is trained, does a 3-day training on the evidence-based curriculum, and then once a week comes into the school to the same classroom through the whole school year with the same parents and baby. Everybody falls in love, and the principals and myself as the program manager and mentors, the program has mentors for all the instructors, help throughout the year. So there's themes, there's a pre-family visit. So the instructors introduce a lesson, get the kids ready. If there's like a theme like crying or safety or relationships or communication, or as the baby gets older, like who am I, likes and dislikes. Have you done that one yet? Not yet, okay, it's coming. And then the family visit where it's experiential. There's a giant green blanket, like picture all of us right now. There's a green blanket right in the middle, little baby in the middle with parents, and we'd be perspective taking cues from the baby and the attachment relationship between the parent and the baby. It's like, okay, what's the baby feeling? How do you know? It's all about investigation. And then what do you want to do about it, right? So it's, if the baby's crying, oh, do I want to make a loud sound? And no, maybe not. Maybe I want to make a soft sound and a lullaby. Oh, I see. What do I do if I see a peer on the playground who's crying? Do I want to tease? Do I want to bully? Do I want to make things harder, or do I want to help? And that's the third lesson out of the 3 is how to apply it to your life. So, and that's where the changes happen. So it's through observing the baby's emotions, reflecting on your own perspective taking, understanding emotions of others, and also comfort in discussing emotions. We talked about the accreditation. There's also evaluation and research. I passed around the research summary. There's also an annual program evaluation for each area. I just got that in, so Bridget, I'll send it to you. You can hand it out everywhere. Mental health, we talked about that. Also for bullying, peers are present in 85% of bullying episodes. So just imagine if those peers who went through Roots of Empathy were able to be there and make a difference in 85% of the severity. Big deal. There's also shared cultural values. So opening up that into, okay, it's not just from one perspective, it's a global perspective and locally. So talked about Reach Around the World. That's the first baby and mama in Whatcom County, baby Edison. First year was 12 classrooms. This was a moment in a class I was the instructor where it was the first moment the mom set down the baby and the baby's like, zoom! And all the kids were like, and these are 5th graders who kind of the whole year, you know, and the other instructors can attest to this. Not always smooth sailing. Kids are kids and they're distracted and life happens. But so they're all, and then as soon as that happened, every one of them just, they had their reactions and fell in love. pretty amazing. So just to be able to have that unfiltered joy and that unfiltered love in front of your peers. So this year, we're in 4 school districts. Next year, we're looking at expanding, possibly adding, I don't know if it's top secret still, maybe possibly adding 1 more, and up to 45 classrooms. But the main goal that we have is with our current school districts to continue the program here. So we have a 3-year startup grant. We're in year 2 right now, so next year is fully funded. So the money is available as long as we find tiny teachers and are able to have instructors who can carry on the program. And also the president and founder, Mary Gordon, she's coming into town at the end of May, and she's going to be talking about, okay, future funding for the long term, right? Because you don't just wait till the end, you know how it is. Look for the future. And the commitment from Roots of Empathy is to help find grants and funding for the overall programmatic costs, and then per school looking at, okay, what's the school portion of something and how do we offset that, even all the way to 0 contribution like we did for the startup grant. So it's a partnership and collaboration that we're interested and invested in doing. So fun stories, Mark Baker School District, our counselor Jane at Harmony with baby Ezra. And Jane sent these stories in. So baby Ezra had to get a helmet for developmental issues that they're going through, and the kids just took it in stride. Had to reschedule due to a PT visit, but it was great segue to inclusion, right? Of like, okay, everybody's got stuff they're working on. There's kids with special needs. We all develop at our own rates, and Jane was able to describe the OT and PT, and some of the kids were actually in the same boat, getting that for themselves. So there's an inclusive conversation. I'm not sure if everybody gets a cool looking helmet like that. And then Jane also said, like, asking a question during her lunch, and what's your favorite thing about 3rd grade? And one of the students said, baby Marley, who's the other baby teacher, tiny teacher. And then feeling happy because of the baby, like going to school and, oh, I feel happy. And then baby Ezra had an appointment to get shots, and the kids were like very empathetic about all the shots, right? So that perspective taking, feeling what somebody else feels, and then being able to care for them. And then the songs, at the end of the lesson, the baby's mom walks around. Do you want to show a little example of how the baby, if you were the baby mom?
Baby mama just takes baby around and spends about 3 seconds with each student. And the student gets to gets to touch his little feet and say goodbye, get all the smiles, the coos, the little kicks.
Yeah.
Pretty special.
It's
They
pretty
do at the
special,
beginning and
right?
at the end of each visit.
Yeah, and so what she said was one of the students who's in an intensive learning program was actually hopping up and down with excitement to be able to touch the baby's feet. And that's one thing with the research, is that touch matters, the attachment. So, and then here there's artwork that happens, and what's your own feelings? I felt tired, just woke up, felt worried, found my tooth. I think I lost the tooth.
No tooth fairy.
Right?
That's actually my daughter.
That's awesome. Good segue to Jessica. Do you want to talk about
Yeah, so we have baby Aldo, and it's just been such a joy. So I have like something I was gonna share. Do you want me to wait until after and do a acne update, or should I take wait? Okay, so I was gonna start with like where I'm at in the program now, which is theme 8 of theme 9. So I'm getting towards the end. We only have 2 more like family visits. But right now theme 8 is like who I am. So it's turning into like ourselves. And the overview captures what I love so much about the program. So I thought I would share that with you. Roots of Empathy's focus on individual temperament and the uniqueness and specialness of the baby leads logically to students' consideration of who they are. They have a chance to consider their own needs and values, their skills, their connections to their family, culture, school, and community in the world. In other themes, students hear the parents speak about their hopes and wishes for the baby. In this theme, students think about the hopes and dreams they have for themselves. As students learn about responsibility to a baby, they extend that thinking to the baby's place in the world and how we have responsibilities as citizens of the community and the globe to ensure that babies like the Roots of Empathy baby have a safe, equitable, and healthy environment in which to grow. Students learn they can be change makers. So that doesn't align with our district's strategic plan. I'm not sure what does. So the Roots of Empathy program like really encapsulates my philosophy as a school counselor. I can't put it as eloquently as they do, but it really encompasses that feeling. A couple special moments I wanted to share was I had a student request to see me. He was feeling left out from his classmates. He wanted to like stand up and address the class. And so while I appreciate his passion for self-advocacy, I wanted to ensure the environment would be like compassionately responsive to his sharing of his experience. So Roots of Empathy was the perfect opportunity to do just that. So overarching themes in Roots of Empathy include expressing your feelings, practicing kindness and inclusion, and solving problems. So there are natural opportunities for students to share positive and challenging experiences throughout the lessons, and the student was able to do that along with other students. So sharing those feelings of feeling left out, of exclusion. And so they came up with ideas on how to help someone who feels left out, how they can help themselves. So it's not only normalized the experience of feeling left out for the student, but allowed others to share their own experiences, relate to one another, and practice that empathy that we're trying to instill. Another special moment I had was during the sleep theme, where students learn the importance of like sleep cycles, sleep routines, what's important about sleep, what it entails for their baby and themselves. So we asked the family to share like a transitional object that helps the baby get back to sleep. Our family didn't have that. They had a song that they like to sing to their baby Aldo. And it's not a traditional lullaby. So I don't know if you know the band Ween. They're generally categorized as an alternative rock band, but they're known for their highly eclectic, if not irreverent, catalog of songs inspired by like all genres, like punk, gospel, R&B, like country, you name it, they've got it. So I was excited about this, but also a little cautious in asking mom to share, but I was trusting her good judgment, and she did a beautiful job sharing this song, and it like calmed the class. There was this beautiful like calm silence that kind of, there was a squirreliness that had been there that then just settled everyone. And so it was this magical moment that showed the power of song in bringing safety and security to Aldo, as well as like connecting all of us in that moment. So, sorry, I'm going on a little bit longer than I
Did he fall asleep?
no, but he had been antsy, and so it settled him, and it was really cool to watch along with all of our other students. And it was the day the mentor had been there too, so we had done a lot of songs already, and so the class was like, another song, you know. But it was really cool to see how that just brought them down. One of the things I love most about the Roots of Empathy curriculum is how it builds upon itself. It ties all the lessons together really artfully, leaving all the participants and the partners, so students, baby, family, teacher, with tangible, like mental, emotional takeaways. So there's a cycle. It's baby, self, others. And so it's like starting with the baby. What is the baby telling us, showing us? What's problem are they trying to solve? And then what does that say about me? How do I feel? Are my temperaments the same? Are they different? And then moves on to the others, like, how are my classmates responding? What are their temperaments? Are they responding like this because of those temperaments? So it's really thoughtfully developed. It's been a joy to deliver it and watch all of these magical moments unfold. It's really deepened my philosophy as a school counselor and strengthened my skills in teaching children. So thank you for the opportunity for the instructor training, bringing this to our district, and supporting the crucial work of social emotional learning through the delivery of this program and beyond. And time tonight to show you all about it.
Cool, thank you.
Oh, slide. Oops. Oh, yes, one of our stars. You wanna?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard going last after
Yeah.
everyone has
Yeah.
so eloquently said that. I believe the Roots of Empathy. I'm gonna read because I can speak in front of children like nobody's business, but in front of adults I have a hard time. So the magic of Roots of Empathy is with the baby, and the kids just love our family visits. I have excited students coming to school, confirming that it's baby day. They're so happy when it is. Faces light up when she arrives, and amazement is sparked with every new milestone and moment of growth. We look to the baby for authentic emotion. They're happy, sad, angry, frustrated. She doesn't hold anything back or hide her feelings with behaviors or acceptable pleasantries. She just feels. And we are able to talk about how the baby and the mama communicate with each other, with sounds and words and facial expressions, body language, and witness how the mom responds to those needs. We identify temperament traits, like Jessica said, just knowing ourselves and what we need in different situations. And our baby Rosie, is at Kendall is super adaptable, just usually pretty chill, low in sensitivity, and moderately active. She has a good persistence at her playing with her toys and kind of overcoming some difficulties. But being the youngest of 5, her mom can also speak to similarities between her children, but also the differences and what those differences mean. So like if her older children need something different than Rosie does in different situations, it's pretty cool. We're also watching how the baby grows and changes and what new opportunities and challenges those changes might bring. All of that observation and learning gives myself and the classroom teacher a springboard to talk about students as individuals and how they feel, what they need to feel better when they're upset, and how it's okay to have different needs and responses from their peers. Just super important. We're not all the same. And that's just a way to kind of identify that. The baby visit gives the students a space to be completely compassionate and gentle and gracious. And they're obviously not going to be mean to a baby. We can transfer that into how they might approach their classmates and friends around them. My favorite moment this year was yesterday during our baby visit. Baby Rosie came in unusually cranky, and the students noticed it right away and started asking questions. You know, the typical was, is she tired? Is she hungry? Is she dirty? They're really aware that it was different than normal. And her cries and her body language was communicating that she hadn't been feeling the same way as before. And so Rosie's mom said that Rosie had a couple new teeth coming in, and she seemed to be eating more lately, was going through a growth spurt, and she's just overall uncomfortable. And the kids watched and pointed out that Rosie's mom stood up instead of sitting there and just letting her be, and rocked her, was gently touching her. And they asked to sing a song. And so we sang her favorite lullaby very quietly, the whole class, which a group of 3rd graders is not, they're squirrely, you said squirrely. They can be awfully squirrely. And everyone was quiet and sweetly singing. And we sang her goodbye song really quietly, and baby Rosie was calm and quiet, and mama just stepped out of the room. And then after that, we were able to talk about what they just done. They felt really proud of themselves too, for being able to attend to her needs in a way. And we were able to make the connection of how we could be aware of our friends and classmates' behaviors and communication, and adjust ourselves by giving space to them if they needed, or comfort, or listening ear, so that they might find that peace and calm as well. So we are very lucky to have Roots of Empathy in our schools, and I'm hopeful we'll be able to continue, and really excited to see what might come from years of kind of building on this too, and having that excitement and that fresh life in our schools.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're looking at, our overall goal is to build a culture of engaged citizenship and engaged leadership, of empathetic leaders. So people who in 40 years, whatever, however many years, they'll be sitting in this room, having gone through Roots of Empathy and having those experiences to then attune to their community, to each other, to what kind of world we're trying to create. So that's really the long-term vision. And to do that, we're reaching out for babies for next year, tiny teachers as they're called. So I have flyers that are hard copy flyers, as well as I can send Bridget just the flyer, and posting that anywhere, everywhere, for each school, right? So, okay, the Acme baby for next year, we need a tiny teacher, or Kendall or Harmony. And that's part of what I do all summer is reaching out but it really takes school partnership and people who know people, not just me walking up at a gas station of, oh, I heard you talking about your pregnant. It's a little bit scary. We have a Costco baby this year in Ferndale, so just saying, that wasn't me, that was somebody I worked with. Anyway, and then also instructors for future years, right? So we have one community-based instructor that probably won't be able to continue in Kendall next year, but okay, who's another person who's maybe situated in Kendall that would be their long-term passion. So we're looking for people with flexible schedules and maybe retired teachers or people who have been in service work that have group facilitation experience, any of you all, to go in the classroom once a week through the school year and be a part of it. So that's what we're looking for in order to do the long-term sustainable, is creating a culture of excitement and growth. And in Canada, at the international office, they get calls of people doing family planning. When should my baby be due? So it can be a Roots of Empathy baby. So when we're there, we'll know we were at. So artwork, the kids' evaluation at the end of the year is what can Roots of Empathy teach the world. And that's one from a few years ago. So, and like I said, there's a book that Mary Gordon wrote, and then that's me with my contact information. So questions from anybody?
I have a comment.
Questions,
I have
comments?
a comment.
Go ahead.
We did some school visits as board members, and there were displays of Roots of Empathy writing that the students had done, talking about, translating that experience that you're talking about and being able, I was just blown away with the amount of detail that they could use to describe their feelings about a situation in their own lives and talk about it in a way that some adults would struggle with. And it was really moving to me. I don't know if y'all remember, I was like pointing at the dog, going, oh my God. It was very emotional. I think most of us grew up in a time where that social emotional learning wasn't done overtly. And so to see such a well-developed curriculum that's articulating that and giving our young people so much more to work with at a young age, to be able to talk about and apply and think about in the observational aspect of it. It's really powerful. And I just wanted to acknowledge that the work that goes into that, and that the board is seeing good work in our district. So thank you. Yeah.
So good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I was just gonna make a comment. So when you first mentioned it was like a reduction in aggression and bullying, I was like curious, like what's that replaced with? And I saw in here it said pro-social behavior, and then you kind of explained like all the different positive things that were happening, and you did as well. So that was pretty cool to see that. It's not just reducing some negative things; it's also creating some positive things as well. And I like the comment about the culture of leadership. So that's pretty cool. And so I guess you kind of have these moments that are really nice with the kids, and then trying to expand on that and get the value out of that.
Right.
And I was just curious, like in that just general sense of having a younger kid, would there be something similar that could happen with maybe an older student and a younger student? In this idea of a culture of leadership and I don't know, just looking out for somebody and having a little bit of responsibility, along those same lines, something like that. You guys thought about anything like that?
Yeah, we haven't done that specifically within Roots of Empathy, but applications like school districts can look at, okay, mentorship programs, or maybe you already do with older students and younger students, especially if they've been through Roots of Empathy. You've had the conversations, you can carry this on.
Yeah, we've had over the years connections between like 5th, 6th graders and kindergarten, 1st graders reading and connections like that. So I'm curious, what you see, the differences between grade levels and what do you see as the ideal age to start for children to start with a program like Roots of Empathy?
Yeah, so around the world, it's offered in any grade, kindergarten through fifth or sixth grade. The qualification is it's the same teacher with the same kids throughout the day, so the
Mhm.
lessons can be applied. And so there hasn't been a researched, oh, this is the sweet spot, but third grade seems like a really good sweet spot as far as okay, they're right in the middle of their grade school year. If you're doing one Roots of Empathy class, some places like in Canada, they've had this for 27 years and they have it in thousands of classrooms across Canada and the First Nations. And so they might have a kindergarten and a fifth grade
Mhm.
or a second grade and a sixth grade or whatever that is, so a couple of times. But the research is based on longitudinal studies over a 3-year period of time. They were working on 6-year studies and then COVID happened and things got all crazy. But that's what they're seeing over, it's a long term, because it's based on the neuroscience. It's, you know, the brain development is not based on, okay, memorize these things, okay, now do them, you know, it's experiential. And I also wanted to mention, as far as like the generations and the ages, the parents with the babies are saying how they're feeling like their baby is just being welcomed in community, and they're seeing the changes in the babies as far as that social engagement, comfortability. I had a class last year where the baby came in, well, the mom came in with the baby's just dead out of sleep in the car seat carry thing, whatever that's called. And so plunk right in the middle of the green blanket, and we're all talking really quietly, as you do. And then the baby started to wake up a little bit. So the mom picked up the baby, put the baby on her shoulder, and the baby kind of blinked, looked around. I'm like, oh, like totally different place, woke up somewhere it hadn't been when I fell asleep. Baby looks around and is like, it just saw all of his friends. And
Mhm.
all the kids just melted, right? So it's like there's that connection. Yeah. So the goal, how do we connect with each other from here? All the rest is details, right?
I'd also really want to express appreciation to the parents. A parent of a child that age has a hard time getting their head above the level.
Yes.
I mean, you have that, you know, the young child, and you know what it's like, and to be willing to both take the time and, you know, and the variability in how things go when you're in a situation like that is commendable. And so I think if we can get that back to the parents, how much we appreciate their participation.
Definitely.
And in that same vein, I wanted to add one of the other benefits can be like the community building aspect of it. Like our baby, we were lucky enough to find an Acme baby. And so in theory, Aldo will come to Acme when he's old enough. And I love that idea of that, like you mentioned when you were telling us about the program, he was the first teacher, you know, he was the teacher there and now he's coming as a kindergartner. And so just that continual community building, I think is really special too.
Well, thank you so much for coming to the board
Thank you.
with all your effort. So next up, we have action items and series of policies, starting with Rebecca policy 6030 insurance. I think on each of these, Phil, I'll have you address them first.
Sure. Yeah, this is Mount Baker policy 6/30 insurance. We've also got workers' compensation, partial pay, state law, SAB insurance. It's a policy we already have on the books. So they're just replacing some of the language to bring us in line with what the law says. So there's not a lot to it that we have to worry about. Just one line here on this, on the last page, on page 3 or 4, per state law, the district will offer eligible employees all benefits offered by the School Employees Benefits Board. So it's just bringing us into state law, into compliance. And there's really no extra work for us to do because we're already doing it. And so,
Okay,
got it.
okay.
Any questions?
Just, I think it's worth commenting on how much our insurance costs have increased.
Thank you, Ed. Pass that on.
Yeah.
And getting that comment to the legislators.
Yeah.
Is key.
You know, went through with Nick, right? It's just, it's gone way, way up and not really being compensated for that cost and.
But yeah, when I first started on the board, our annual insurance cost was about 90,000. And now it's above 400.
It is.
480.
480. Okay, so recently it went over 400 and now it's 480. So that 480 is about that far away from $500,000. That's a lot of money.
This isn't something we can shop around, right? This is like basically state.
Yeah, no,
cost is.
I think we're, as far as the services, the services are tailored to school district needs and so on and so forth.
Yeah, there's essentially two big pools in the state. You can choose one pool or the other, and actually the pools work together because they're both not for profit, because they try to invest back in their members. And it's up to the reinsurers, those big insurance companies, that then provide the insurance for those two big pools that we choose to be part of one or the other. And in talking to our risk pool, one of the things the insurers look at quite a bit is actually laws that are on the books in the current state, as well as court cases. And Washington is known to be very plaintiff favorable.
Right.
Not to sound like I'm victim shaming or anything, but just the track record is such that the plaintiffs usually get high awards. And so therefore our reinsurance is impacted in the same way. So when they look at Washington State, they say, well, that's an expensive state to insure, and that's where we are. So we try to do things that help mitigate that. We participate with a lot of things with the risk pool, with trainings around, sexual abuse and molestation, supervision with our administrators, with the hopes that if we do enough positive things, that we can show that we're a safer organization to insure. So that's pretty the only control we have over that cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
So getting back to policy itself, any further questions?
It did say medical, dental, and vision, but was that added, or is that just a?
So that's the employee component that's part of the employee benefit.
Okay. Was that already there and it just wasn't
Yeah.
described?
Essentially, it's there.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like health, healthcare, so they're just.
They just
elaborating.
specified it.
Okay.
It was the
Mhm.
remake, yeah.
So if there are no further questions, my recommendation would be to approve policy 6530 for first and final reading.
Motion to approve policy 6530 first and final reading. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up is Mount Baker policy 50/50 contracts, and this is for second reading.
Yeah, we first put this on the table on February 22nd. We tabled it at that time. A lot of it is bringing up to language that we're doing right now in terms of practice. But the one thing that caught our eye was the principal contracts. And it says the board reserves the right to offer principal 2 or 3 year contracts. Well, essentially, we're doing that now with continuing contracts as we go along the board. I don't think we want to be in the business of offering more than 1 year continuing year-to-year contracts, but it does give us an opportunity or some flexibility around that if we choose to do that. And that's the only addition here that I was a little bit wanted to.
Yeah, it doesn't tie our
It
hands.
doesn't
though.
tie our hands or anything, but it just gives flexibility. If you have a really great principal that's doing really good stuff, you might want to think about it. And all of our principals are doing great stuff, but they're essentially been here long enough to be on the continuous status anyway. So
Questions or comments?
I do, I mean, I guess I don't understand why we need a policy that says that we have the right to do something unless it's specifically prohibited somewhere else. That doesn't really make sense to me. I don't think we need that in there.
Either Phil or Nick want to weigh in on that?
So the change in the three-year the biggest change here, as you can see, is the principal contract. That came through lobbying through the principals state association, which changed the state law the session before this most recent one. So I think the intent there was to, hopefully develop and create goodwill with our building administrators, our building principals, because that is a group that over the years has felt that they could be more liable for things that might occur in a school. And so, as Phil mentioned, it clearly says the board reserves the right to do this or not. There's a lot of things that go along with offering a 2 or 3 year contract. Traditionally, historically, the only person in the district that can have a more than 1 year contract is the superintendent. So the principals felt that that was something they should advocate for themselves, and the legislature changed that law. And so now WASDA is suggesting we change our policy to say such that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just corralling us in a direction without actually us having to have the conversation about whether or not we want to do that, and I don't like that. Because we also have reserved the right to prohibit a multi-year contract, right? So obviously it's choosing that direct language because it's pointing us in that direction without us having to discuss it. So I'd rather not have that in there. If someone wants to put forward that idea, we could discuss it at that point. But I don't see any, I just don't like the idea of being moved in that direction. The other question I had was, it said, under continuing contracts, rehires, leave replacement employees who do not receive timely notice of non-renewal have the right to have their contracts renewed for another term. So my question is, how is timely defined? Is that a week? Is it 2 weeks? Is it a month? Like, what is that?
So certificated contracts, these are mostly teachers. So we're looking at that May 15th timeline.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? So I guess I would, if, my question here would be, we at this point don't have any intention of using a longer than 1 year principal contract. Is that wording optional in there, or is that wording required to match state law?
I don't think this is required for us to have it in the policy.
Yeah, I
So
don't,
this
I would
is-
look at that, the supplementary.
Yeah, this is
material
just,
from WASDA.
Mhm.
as Nick pointed out, through the AWSP lobbying efforts and things like that, giving, that principals an opportunity to do that. We don't have to have this in this.
I would consider amending it to strike that. And then if for some reason we find ourselves in a position where we do want to offer that in the future, and that it'd be we can admit and we can change it back then, but I don't, it's since we're not in any condition to use that.
The rest of this policy on the backside, if you look at it, talks about paraeducators. Those are things that we already have in place that we're doing. I would recommend that we stay with that language, strike the principal contract, and then go with that.
So just a clarification, the principal contract language that allows us to offer that 3-year contract if we wanted to, that's been amended into state law as something that's allowable.
Yes.
So even if it's not in our policy, we could always point to that state law and say, this is still allowable.
And that's where yes, that's true. The only part I need to look at is whether or not the law requires us to have a policy that says it, so,
That echoes it.
yeah.
Yeah, because I do think, and I'm, just to take another side, you know, the lobbying that's done on behalf of all of those principals is more than the collective voice in this room. That's a lot of people who have come forward to say that this is important to people in principal role. And our principals aren't represented by a union and often don't have the same kind of voice or access to share their needs and wants the way that certificated staff and classified staff have. And so even if we don't have an intention to use it anytime in the future, we can give the acknowledgement that this is something we may be open to at some point, as even just a small head nod to our principals in a very difficult time. So I'm just throwing that other way of looking at it out there, because it doesn't require us to act any differently, but it is a kind of acknowledgement of that collective voice that went through that state process that our state legislators agreed to, right? And so I'm just saying, you know, there might be some wisdom in listening to those voices also.
Yeah, and I think where the situation where districts would use it would be when other districts are using it. And then it becomes a competitive factor. That hasn't happened as of yet. And so I think, so we're at a position now where we don't have to start. With superintendents, yes, we're well aware of the drawbacks of multi-year contracts. Also, we're well aware that that's part and parcel of attracting talent too. And so there, that situation already exists. For principals at this point, it does not. It may in the future. We won't know until, several years down the road how this change in law will unfold.
So what I would say, and in full transparency, I was the president of this principals organization at one time. What I would say, especially with the high school, I'm not saying here, just as just an example of my past experience. When a high school principal position does come open, that's one of the positions where you have few applicants,
Mhm.
and it could be used as leverage to help attract. So just a thought.
Yeah, and that, and in my time on the board, I've recognized that is one of the hardest positions to fill well.
Yeah.
It's and it does make a major difference in school climate and educational outcomes. So.
Right, and though we all find this location to be beautiful and wonderful and attractive, and hence we're here, we're also not in a metropolitan area where there might be a vast number of people who could easily move from one job to the other without turning the apple cart of their life upside down. And so having that to attract candidates could be helpful. But if it's not required by the law, but the law allows it, we don't have to have it in our policy, but it could be a nice acknowledgement from the board that we value that collective work and voice.
Just, I'm thinking about approving a 3-year contract recently and things changing pretty quickly.
That's right.
And
That's right.
Yeah, but this isn't saying that we have to offer a 3-year contract, we'll just have the option to offer it. If we
I'd
want
saying
to.
if it was offered and accepted and then we.
Yeah,
But why that?
Yes.
Why not say we have the option to not prohibit the 3-year contract? Obviously, it's pointing us in the direction.
I don't know that I agree with that. I don't really understand why it's such a bad thing to have this in there. So you're not convincing me. It just seems like,
There, we have an infinite number of things we can pass. This is specifically being put in there to lead us down a direction. So why not have that conversation first?
but lead us down a direction where, I mean, I don't see it as leading it down a direction. It's giving us more options in the future if we.
We already have that option. Even if it's not in there, we have that option.
But then why not just leave it in there?
Why not
Why
just,
take it out?
why not just say we have the right to prohibit?
I don't know. That's what I'm
Right?
saying, right? That doesn't make sense to me.
We could do it either way. We could say we have the right to do it. We could say we have the right to prohibit it. We're picking one. Why are we picking that?
Because we have to pick something.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
Well, yeah, I think we have, there are three options with it. You could leave it as is, you could say we have the right to prohibit, or you could just take the language out and leave it nebulous either way. So there's those three options. I don't feel strongly about any
I
one
don't
of those,
either.
although I don't think I would want to put language in there that we have the right to,
Just making a point.
right. I wouldn't want to go that far. Between leaving it in and taking it out, I'm almost at the level of a coin toss, but Jason, what's your thoughts?
Like Brennan, kind of both ways, really. We don't have to make this decision tonight, right? So we can do some research to see if we can follow state law, even though we don't have it. If the state has it and we're able to still use that, if they say we can't, then we might. If it said it has to be in our policy, then we might have to research that, think a little stronger on that.
Yeah, that's fine. We can take this for second reading and table it and bring it up at a subsequent meeting.
That's just my.
So if that means next up is Black Becker policy 5310 compensation.
So this has to do with the required salary schedules that Nick has to put together. And so he's the superintendent designee, establish salary schedules, non-represented employees and represented employees. So it's something that we have to do, and it's pretty short and sweet when you look at it. So that we have to do, I would just recommend that we do it.
Any questions on the 5310? Yeah, I looked through it also, and my recommendation was first and final reading.
Motion to approve policy 5310, first and final reading. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up is Mount Baker policy 5005, employment and volunteer disclosure certification requirements. And this is up for second reading.
Yeah, it just has one addition, actually two small additions on page 2. It talks about background checks for staff and volunteers. We're already doing those. And then the pre-employment drug testing, if the district requires prospective staff members to undergo pre-employment drug testing, the district will comply with the requirements. So I think it's a good idea. And we do background checks anyways. And if something pops up on the background check and we still think this person might be worthy of employment, it might require a drug test. You just follow the state law to do it.
And then for transportation,
Where
that's our current practice.
Yeah.
Randomly.
Any questions? If not, I recommend policy 5005 for second and final reading.
Motion to approve policy 5005, second and final reading. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, and then next up, there's superintendent's report.
Yes. Well, I took a page out of what Ed's been talking about the last couple of meetings and just re-messaging what we're messaging. And so I don't know if you saw last night's update to the staff, but I want to re-message that, is that we're in dire straits budget wise. We're trying to stop the bleeding. We are going through with some budget cuts. We are fortunate to have a lot of resignations and retirements on the certified side right now, which is helping us get there. But we have some ways to go. We get the budget tool coming to us on Monday. Brian will start working through the budget tool, still working with the ESP, still working with OSPI. We have bargaining coming up. So all of these different elements come into play when we start talking about final budgeting and putting that budget together for June. And I just want to reiterate what you talked about. We re-message. We have a budget problem. We're not going to get out of this budget problem for another year or 2 years or 3 years. We're playing the shell game. We have people that are helping us out. The junior high and high school have been really helpful and working with us around their master scheduling, elementary principals looking at their class sizes, and other departments as well. And I think we just need to realize and remember, and I said this last time, we're an organization that we're a teaching and learning organization. And we have to remember that. We have to have a quality program for our kids so that kids can walk across the stage in June as seniors and feel good about their 12 years being here, feel good about their program that they had in the high school. So just re-messaging for a budget process. We're trying to right size where we are in terms of enrollment. We're doing the best we can with it. It's going to be hard. It's going to hurt in some places, a lot of places. But we're a team and we're working together to make the best of it for our kids. So that's pretty much my report. I just wanted to re-message what we continually have been talking about since, well, you guys, since early in the year, since January. So that's my report. Teaching and learning organization, let's concentrate on teaching and learning. We have the operation side of the house that we have to put in order that revolves around enrollment and budget. We're working on it and we're working with people that are helping us, and we have a plan to get through this year and next year and the following year.
Thank you. So for board discussion this evening, I'm planning to replace that with our bargaining discussion for executive session. And so no separate board discussion this evening, because I think that's more timely. And so then we're on to meeting schedule. And I think I'm the only ones that is planning on going to the Wazoo Regional meeting. Is that correct? Okay. Otherwise, it's just our regular board meetings coming up. Next meeting will be April 25th. So I think we're ready to adjourn to executive session. We will be, let's see. I'm gonna say 30 minutes.
I would give it at least 45 minutes.
45
I
minutes.
think we have to talk.
Yeah,
about
we've got
personnel
two topics, so we'll 45 minutes, no decisions to be made, and we will reconvene just to adjourn our meeting. So I think we've got things to sign first, and then we'll start our executive session after that. Thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate you and staying through the policy and